What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Black Experience. How is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone wrapped up their summer real well and is having a great time. It is the month of October now, and we are in a new month. We are in fall season, and I hope everyone has a great fall season, stays warm as it's getting colder outside, and I've been keeping my jackets on and making sure that I'm drinking my hot beverages and pretty soon my hot cocoa as the seasons are upon us. For all you new listeners, welcome to the Black Experience. Welcome to a mission that I'm on to empower people and to have people's voices that are underrepresented heard. For those of you who are returning listeners, thank you so much. Thank you for all your support. I could not be here at this point doing this podcast 2 years later without you. Today, y'all, I've got an exciting episode. And this is something that recently came to mind because I was looking around and I was thinking about, as we're nearing the end of 2024 and as we're approaching upon 2025 and beyond, AI, artificial intelligence, is everywhere. And I'm not just talking ChatGPT, but we have Google Gemini. We have OpenAI. We have people that are using AI to come up with answers, to come up with images. I see it on YouTube. I see it on my feed. I see it everywhere. People are making deep fakes with AI. There's so much potential in AI. And I don't know if you guys know him, but his name is Patrick Bet-David. And he has his own company called Valuetainment. I listen to his podcast. Definitely recommend it so that you guys would check it out. But he had a whole webinar on YouTube about a month ago, an hour long, where he talked about the power of AI and using AI to transform your business, your podcast, whatever it may be. So today I was like, you know what? What does AI look like in terms of the Black community and in terms of all people in general as well? And how can it impact the Black community in a positive way? And how can we use AI to impact us in a positive way? So I found this article that I was reading from McKinsey Institute for Black Economic Mobility. And the article title was The Impact of Generative AI on Black Communities. Now, this is an article from last year, and it talked about the potential of AI and generative AI and how we can impact the economic gap, the Black community, Black jobs going forward in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, and beyond years from now. Now, for starters, AI, generative AI, has an economic potential of up to $4.4 trillion in potential global economic impact across all functions and industries, right? In fact, annual global wealth creation from generative AI is already being projected to be about $7 trillion, in fact, with about $2 trillion of that going to the United States, given the U.S.'s share of the global GDP, or gross domestic product. Now, just from household wealth, the U.S. could gain about $500 billion from generative AI value creation. And this is about an extra $3,400 in new wealth for each household in 2045, which is projected to be about 143.4 million households in 2045. So an extra 3,400. Now, just how much is that going to be in 2045 compared to now, right? With the way inflation is going. But anyhow, we see the impact, we see the potential of generative AI and how it's already being projected to have a larger and larger impact. Now, what does this mean for Black Americans? Well, for starters, let's look at the facts. Black Americans, according to this article, capture only 38 cents of every dollar of new household wealth, despite representing 13% of the U.S. population. Now, assuming that this trend will continue and the projections are true, then by 2045, right, by the time there's 143 million households, we can see racial disparity between black and white households be about $43 billion annually, right? So every year, the wealth gap can increase and be about 43 billion annually every year. Now, obviously, when you hear that number, you're shocked, and I was definitely shocked when I first heard that. But again, AI is one of those topics, in my opinion, that is, it has a both very stark, can have negative impacts, but it can also have positive impacts, depending on how it's used, depending on the potential, and depending on how the people with access to AI, if you have access to AI, use it. That's ultimately what matters, right? Now, what I'm going to dive into is I'm going to dive into a few concerns that AI has and its impact on the black community, right? And specifically on black workers and high mobility jobs. But then following that concern, I'm going to follow it up with the possible solution that both the article talks about and that I also want to elaborate on. Now, one of those concern when we see AI on the come up is, number one, black Americans overrepresent roles, job roles specifically, that have a high percentage of the ability to be overrun or overtaken by automation. Right. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, the article lists 5 specific occupations that have a high likelihood of being overtaken by AI, by automation, right? And those 5 are office support, production work, food services, mechanical installation, and repair. Right? Now, when we hear these 5, the first thing that comes to mind is people, because these are roles that require people, obviously. But the thing is, these are also roles that AI can easily take over, right? These are not future proof, and we're going to talk more about that later on, roles and jobs that AI won't be able to take over, right? In fact, reskilling efforts are needed, and that is part of the solution for this. In fact, if reskilling efforts are not undertaken, the trend will only worsen, since black Americans are most likely already overrepresenting 4 of those 5 occupations, right? Black workers in occupations with greater than 75% automation potential compared with just 20% of white workers, right? The 24% of all black workers in occupations with greater than 75% in that automation potential, whereas it's just 20% for white workers, right? Now, the skill or the solution that I came up with and that the article talks about as well is reskilling efforts. We have to be able to reskill black workers as well as white workers, of course, too. But we can see how black workers are more prone to it, since a bigger percentage of them are in those occupations. And they overrepresent 4 of the top 5 occupations at risk of a switch to automation. Reskilling efforts need to be undertaken. Now, that's just one concern, though. Another concern that we see in the article, and that's noted in the article, is generative AI's impact on high mobility jobs. Now, when you hear the word high mobility, what does that mean, right? Well, high mobility jobs are jobs that provide livable wages and potential for an upward career trajectory and development over time that don't necessarily require you to have a degree or a college experience, right? In fact, there's 2 tiers that the article notes. There's 2 types of high mobility jobs. Number one is gateway jobs, which are based on experience rather than your college degree, right? And they can offer you a salary of $42,000 or more and allowing you to progress and work up the ladder in your career and make even more money beyond. The second type is target jobs. Target jobs are the next level up for people without degrees, and they're attractive occupations, right, that offer higher annual salaries and stable positions. Now, why would this be a concern? Well, believe it or not, AI has the potential to take over these high mobility jobs. In fact, between 2030 and 2060, generative AI may be able to perform almost half of those gateway and target jobs that many workers that don't have degrees, that don't have any degrees or any sort of education that is equivalent to that are already pursuing. Now, think about it this way, y'all. If 50% of the gateway and target jobs are taken over by AI between 2030 and 2060, then that leaves only half of the potential jobs for Black workers and other workers that don't have degrees that have been pursuing to pursue. Only half. Essentially, that closes a pathway to any upward mobility that many Black workers have relied on for years and years. Because now generative AI has taken over half of those jobs and is already doing half of those jobs. Right? Now, what could be a potential solution to this? Well, one thing that as a Black community we can look more into is future, quote unquote, future-proof jobs. Now, what are future-proof jobs? Future-proof jobs are jobs such as coding, for example, that were previously, assumed to be jobs that, create outputs that require human work, that will change with this paradigm, right? Future-proof skills and future-proof jobs are jobs that workers can take on to avoid being displaced by any future automation, any waves of AI that are coming to take over jobs, right? In fact, the article lists several roles that have the potential, as well as the potential with wages that are more than $42,000 per year. Some of them are dental hygienists, massage therapists, training and development specialists, respiratory therapists, commercial and industrial designers, social and community service managers, and beyond. Right? Now, these skills include socio-emotional abilities as well that require not just technical intelligence, but emotional intelligence, such as someone that knows how to communicate with someone who knows how to do therapy, a talk therapist, right? Hand-eye coordination that machines can't do, that requires human. That there's certain things, essentially, y'all, that humans can do that AI will still struggle to. There's a human touch to those kind of things, right? And I don't know about y'all, but if I'm ever going to have a therapist or someone to talk to about my issues and my personal life, I'd rather talk to a human than a robot, right? Now, maybe some of y'all might choose AI over, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's a safe bet to say that most people would probably want the human touch over AI. All right. And so these future-proof jobs are jobs, again, that will always need the human touch that a lot of people in the Black community can consider pursuing starting today, starting now. Right? If we see these projections, if we see these potential outcomes in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we must do everything that we can to prepare, to take action, to say, hey, this might be the reality in a few years from now. So we're going to take steps X, Y, and Z to better position ourselves and our families so that by 2045, I'm not working a job that might eventually actually be changed to AI the next day, and then I'm out of a job. But that I have a future-proof job. Now, I've never heard this before, y'all, but some of y'all may have heard of the 8 pillars of Black economic mobility that this article specifically states. Now, these 8 pillars represent areas with the highest potential to move the needle on Black economic mobility. Those 8 pillars are financial inclusion, credit and ecosystem development for small businesses, health, workforce and jobs, pre-K to 12 education, digital divide, affordable housing, and public infrastructure. Now, there's both opportunities and risks in everything that you do in life, right? As with that fact, knowing that fact, within these 8 pillars of Black economic mobility, the article states both opportunities and risks that generative AI poses in regards to each of these. For example, when it comes to health, generative AI could draw on patients' histories with electronic medical records for that patient to improve the prescribed treatments and help doctors prescribe them better treatments, right? A doctor could prescribe a certain treatment, but generative AI could say, hey, based on this, something that the doctor may have missed in the medical record, this treatment might actually be more effective down the line for this patient, right? And it could essentially enabling physicians to expedite more accurate and personalized care solutions. On the other hand, the risk for that is that when you're given the different healthcare collection systems, confidentiality and privacy, barriers to access, how many people actually have access to healthcare? That's the broader question. That generative AI may be incomplete and therefore, persisting and continuing the current disparities that may be taught into the AI. Because again, AI is human-made. So again, any disparities that exist will probably be translated into that AI. So that's a potential risk that we see in that. One more example from the 8 pillars is when it comes to affordable housing. Generative AI innovation can reimagine credit worthiness and risk for home ownership for Black Americans and for those Black Americans that lack credit scores. That could be the opportunity. On the other hand, the risk for that is that Black applicants' mortgage applications that are processed with generative AI could be at a greater risk of being denied, right? Simply because of their lack of credit score or the reality of. Now, obviously, having good credit score is not just on Black Americans, but on everyone. But again, with that being one of the pillars, that is the risk that comes with that. And with generative AI, that's something to consider. Now, ultimately, staying all these numbers, staying all these facts, right? What does this have to do with the Black experience that we see? And how can we ultimately, what can we do today in October of 2024 to progress and better prepare for 2030, 2040, 2050, and beyond? Heck, 2025. Because with each passing year, AI is only going to become more and more prominent. Well, again, adding to the solutions that were stated in the article with the reskilling efforts, right? With future-proof jobs and going after those kind of jobs and researching those jobs and finding resources for that. But another thing is sharing this information. Y'all, I tend to be on my phone a lot. And sometimes I don't really read articles. But when I do come across a good article, I love it. And I tend to want to share it. So sharing this article, and I'll have in the description, the link to this article where you guys can check all the information out that I've stated in this podcast. But sharing this article, sharing this information with family members is one step. Right? The Black experience is the Black experience of Black Americans here in the United States and beyond. And part of that is learning from our history, learning from our past, and bettering it for the next generation of people. That's what my goal is. Through inspiration, through facts, through other people's experiences and life journeys. How can we better it for the next generation so that they don't have to go through what we went through, but that they will have their own obstacles, their own hurdles that they have to jump over. But make that path a little bit easier for them, little by little, with each and passing generation. No matter how easy it becomes or how much easier it gets for each passing generation, I believe in life there will always be challenges. There will always be something out there that can slow you down, that will probably slow you down, because that's just life in general, for all people, not just for Black Americans. But if we share this knowledge, if we choose to help each other out, if we choose to educate each other, and if we ourselves take the time out of our day to research these things, to look into what future-proof jobs are, to take those small steps to help expedite this knowledge and information to people that may not have it, that will lead to a brighter future for us. Not a perfect future, but a brighter future. With that, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, y'all. I appreciate all your support. If you're able to and can, definitely consider giving monthly or one time. I'll have all my donation links down below. Stay tuned for more awesome episodes as Season 5 rolls on. And until next time, y'all, peace. What is up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in to that episode. Make sure to click the subscribe, follow button, as well as the bell to get notified on all my new content that is coming out every Wednesday and every other day. And make sure to click that link in the description down below to get access to all my socials and any other platforms that I have my podcast on. And until next time, y'all, peace.